self-help. I am so tired of evolving myself. I'm so tired of doing the work to be great. F greatness. Like, you know what? I just want to be a gross underachiever. I want to not care about anything. I just want to not work so hard in my head. What happened? Where did it all go awry? Okay. So let's talk about the breakdowns, the anatomy of overachieving, the anatomy of victimhood, the anatomy of martyrdom. And underneath all of that, we're dealing with addiction, and we're also dealing with, underneath that, self-loathing, self-hatred. Oh my God. No wonder I'm exhausted all the time. Oh, the inner conflict, the eternal mind FU, the simple form or term would be breakdown. And as a recovering overachiever / perfectionist, actually at 6 years old, I said, oh no, I have to be perfect in order to be noticed. Perfect. That said, I've been in quote unquote a breakdown phase, but not a breakdown as much as I don't give a damn. Like, F this, and I'm tired. I'm tired of trying to prove myself through my achievements and my accomplishments. And I need a break. I need a vacation. I need to escape this madness, which shows up then on the other side as a massive breakdown, and life sucks. This is crappy, and I need answers. And yet, I don't even want to. I'm too tired, too resistant, too unmotivated to get my answers. Therein lies the cycle of insanity. So, that said, here I am. Here I am to talk about it so that I can get out of the breakdown phase and get on with it. And this is what has to happen with our own minds. The mind is the brain in action, and we're talking about the human psyche and the inner turmoil and conflict that goes on between our ears. Now, if the subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between what is real and what is imagined, then it's up to our consciousness to help out the subconscious mechanism. And what's real and what is imagined, if our brains don't automatically know the difference, which I learned that from Bob Proctor. I heard him speak. I was in the front row. That was one of two things that he said that were so brilliant that I've never forgotten. Everything else he said, it just went over my head. Like, it didn't register. But in that information, it resonated with me, and it made so much sense, because this is part of the reason why I have so much inner conflict and had so much trouble with depression and suicidal tendencies my whole life, is because my imagination worked against me most of the time. And then what was real and objective reality did not match up at all. There was a massive contradiction. And that's what drives people quote unquote insane. So then consciousness matters, because then if we have the understanding of how our brain computes information, which is what saved my life, learning and understanding it and applying it and getting new results and empowering perceptions, then my life made sense and it was worth living, because then I could see all the good stuff in my objective reality that I created. So if we're talking about, the wheel of insanity and understanding our consciousness counts, because then the more we understand about ourselves, the more power we have to create whatever we desire consciously, and our subconscious and unconscious minds will match up. And if we're sourced through pleasure and happiness, even if nothing happens, we're still winning before death, the inevitable death card. And with our consciousness, then we have the ability to distinguish what we're imagining versus what is actually happening in objective reality. And it no longer is a gaping hole of disconnection, but it's more of a harmonious fluidity, which sounds much better. That said, good morning, everybody.
Yeah, good morning.
There's my buddy, Dano. How you doing, Dano?
Well, that was one of the longest sentences I've ever heard.
Oh, please. And so your point is what?
Well, just good morning.
Well, there is something underneath that. What are you really saying?
Well, I'm saying that was deep stuff.
Thank
just
you.
One thing, one concept leading into the next. I was following along pretty well, though.
Well, you'd have to be a friend of mine. Only because my whole life I've been so massively intense and introspective and deep that's the only way I know to roll, and sometimes to a fault. Well, not sometimes, a lot of times to a fault. You know, our greatest strength is our greatest fault. And that's the imagination versus objective reality. And that's when we have to consciously go in and go, oh my God, right? Stop overachieving to a fault. Stop overgiving to a fault. Stop hating to a fault, which is a thing. Stop sabotaging to a fault. And that's what draws a line between emotional prison and physical 3D prison. Wow. Okay, so yeah, you said something very topical, which was almost so dumb. Well, that was the longest sentence I've ever heard. And I knew there was something underneath it that was more poignant and more profound, which is the depth. So your reptilian brain goes to, oh, that was a long sentence. And then your conscious mind, or your deeper thought, which is not the hard wiring, had something even better to say. And I'm pointing this out, Dan, because this is how we mess ourselves up over and over again. And it's the same concept as people saying to me, wow, your hair is so long. And I'm like, okay, dude, you said something so dumb, I don't even understand why. Like, I want to say that to people, but I know now with all the training that they're really saying something else that they're not able to express. And sometimes, if I feel like it, I'll say that. I'm like, yeah, it's my hair and it's obvious. Like, why would you state the obvious? Like, I already know. Is there something else you want to say here? Well, yeah, I'm jealous because I've always tried to have hair like yours. And you know what? It's just, I'm jealous, but it's like so beautiful. Oh, okay. Thank you. Well, then that makes sense, because why would you tell me my hair is long when it's my hair? I know. I wash it. I curl it. I style it. I put it up in a bun. Like, dude, what? So interesting. And this is so vital in communication, because this is where people misinterpret other people. Communication breaks down, and there's no what's the word? There's no good feelings going on between people, because it becomes interpreted as offensive or stupid or dumb. It's like, okay, whatever. And you're like, not really want to hang around that person because they say kind of dumb things. They state the obvious. So what are you hearing there, Dan?
Well, yeah, the saying, boy, your hair sure is long, is very similar to me saying that, extremely similar to what I said. That sentence, that was one of the longest sentences I've ever heard. And it's because there was something, you're correct, there was something else that could have been said that would have been more, have more content and be a thought underneath, which in, the long hair item is usually either maybe an attempted compliment, or that, oh wow, that's something that the long hair would be something that person wished they had. And in my case, I think my comment was underneath was, wow, that was intense, and it took a lot to continue to listen to every word.
Exactly.
And I was making note of that without actually saying it.
Yeah, because you were struggling to keep up, so to speak. Not obviously struggling, but that was so deep.
No, I had to concentrate to keep my attention on all of the continued the links in what you were saying to what you had been saying.
Okay, this is brilliant.
I was aware of it.
Yeah. And so, because you started to doubt yourself unconsciously and listening, you see, that's what this is about. Triggering, oh my God, can I keep up? What is she saying? Do I agree? Is that making sense to me? Am I catching it? Am I keeping up? And we go right to, oh no, there's something wrong here possibly. And you can't acknowledge it because your subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between, oh no, can I keep up? Versus, I am keeping up. I get it. Yeah, I have to focus a little more, but that's because of neuronal patterning. We have to train our brain to keep up. We have to train our brain to have the right motions when we're jumping over a hurdle on the track. And then we have to memorize it. What works, what doesn't. Did I hit the hurdle with my back leg or foot or not? What did I do? What did I didn't do? And so this is what we're talking about. It seems so stupid to even have this conversation, and yet it is the root cause of divorce. It is the root cause of anger. And I love that you can really see this and take responsibility for it. is in your, and this is me too, this is every human being on the planet, whether they admit it or not, in your even just a tiny bit self-doubt, or you maybe not keeping up or being good enough, it doesn't show up blatantly, excuse me. And so instead you use the self-defense coping mechanism to inadvertently put me down a little bit by saying something so obvious versus automatically going to, wow, Karen, that was so super deep, I barely caught it. There are some things there that I'm like, whoa, can you repeat it? Does that make sense, Dan?
What I was going to say is when you said this is what causes divorces, it caused my divorce decades ago.
Oh, good one. So it does make sense, yes?
We weren't able to say what we were really thinking to each other.
Yeah.
We were unable to do that because we had not learned how.
Yeah, this is the whole anatomy of snide comments, or comments that make no sense.
Yeah, or just comments that are incomplete.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's like, hello, you have been we were friends, we met in transformational courses and seminars, we became friends, then you became a formal client, and we're still friends, and, it's like, hello, I can gabble, I'm a gab when it comes to this stuff, consciousness, the human psyche, blah, blah, blah. I talk like this all the time. There's nothing new. It's like, haven't we met? Have you not been listening to anything I've said over these years? Right? That's how I know it's obvious. And then now with consciousness, I detect it. I'm like, okay, when you say something your intelligent self says something so dumb, I have to go, all right, what are you really saying? But I want you and me and everyone to get that we're triggered into self-doubt or not being good enough at some level or smart enough. And then we say something that doesn't make any sense, or we say something that we're to cover up what we really want to say.
Or maybe what we really don't want to say.
Yes, very good. Right? And so when someone says, oh, your hair is so long, what they don't want to say is, I'm a loser because I can't grow my hair and have beautiful hair like yours. And therefore I feel really bad about myself.
Yeah, they're just angry that they don't have that and you do.
Yeah. And not to say I haven't done that with people. And then I'm so introspective. I'm like, why did I just state the obvious? That was dumb. What was I really trying to say? Oh my God. I'm jealous. I'm envious. I'm feeling like a loser. But I had to figure this all out to go, what? My whole life, people have been saying some of the most obvious things to me that I just was looking at them cross-eyed. Like, what? And then I figured it out. And so this is not, to understand the anatomy, to actually say to somebody, oh my God, I've always been so insecure about my hair. And I've always felt really bad about myself because I could never have long, beautiful hair like yours. And I always thought I wasn't ever good enough. Oh my God, what would I say to that? I'd start bawling my eyes out. I'd hug the person even though they're a stranger. And I'm like, oh my God, you are so beautiful. Saying that to me makes you the most beautiful human being on the planet. Do you see how this works? Completely and utterly counterintuitive. I feel emotional just thinking because I know what that feels like. I know what it feels like to feel ugly. I know what it feels like to hate myself over and over again. And actually, that's why I had to take a break from everything in these past few weeks. Podcasting. I even have podcasts stacked, ready to go, but I just didn't feel like writing. I didn't feel like putting anything out. I didn't feel like doing the same old thing to help other people when I didn't feel like I could help myself. Hence the F self-help. But the reason why I have tears in my eyes right now is because I know what it's like to feel like a loser, like a freaking failure. Like if I'm not perfect, I will never be seen by my mother, let alone be loved by her or liked by her. So the human brain doesn't want to deal with such pain of feeling like a loser or a failure or ugly. That's too painful to face. So the human brain has to survive it. It has to overcompensate to mask the pain. It is like the dumbest thing with the human brain is this need for survival. That our own brains work against us. Well, it's really our mind. Our own minds work against us to mask pain, to survive life. And by understanding that was like 90% of everything I needed to understand to set myself free from emotional prison. Is underneath it all is this feeling of never being good enough, and then not feeling lovable or likable or important or valuable, whatever word resonates, like our existence matters. And that's what happened for me personally. I felt invisible. I felt lost in a sea of children. I didn't feel like my mommy ever saw me, let alone talk to me, let alone acknowledge me or praise me. Nothing. She pretty much ignored me. Not consciously on purpose. Is because she was so insecure and feeling her own unworthiness that she had to just survive it by having more children somehow. That was her way. The way to prove her worth was be a good wife and mother. My way of proving myself was be perfect by overachievement, starting at 6 years old. That was my coping mechanism. It's hardwired in the brain as addiction, and it created a lot more pain. Because the more I achieved, the more I accomplished, the emptier and lonelier and more invisible I felt. That's not only insane, that is fiendish, devilish, that is so diabolically wicked that no wonder life didn't seem worth living at all, not even close. There was never any happiness, fulfillment, peace. I could never take in my own accomplishments and just be proud of myself, even if nobody was proud of me. To feel that lonely and that empty and that disconnected is slow suicide. So that's another long sentence there, Dan. What do you think? Comments?
Yeah.
Observations?
Yeah. Well, certainly, even though I can identify with that, even though I didn't have the same perfectionism and uber achiever modality that you did, that became an addiction for you, I still had an issue with being seen.
Mm-hmm.
And mine was more, I don't want to be seen.
Yeah.
So, that was also torturous.
Mm-hmm.
And it's still an issue that is operating in the background today.
Yep.
60 years later.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to have, so I have to have awareness always that it's there. And it still influences how I live my life.
Yeah, I mean, this is all based on neuronal patterning and memorization. Mm-hmm. And we can rewire. We have to create new empowering associations, new neural connections and neuronal patterning, and practice that and memorize it, ingrain, embed, and encode it, encrypt it. And over time, the old wiring becomes softer. That's the only way to do this. And so understanding that, again, gave me so much power, and to this day gives me so much power. But this is about, at 6 years old, clear as day, said to myself, oh no, now I have to be perfect in order to have a chance to be seen. I was saying in order to, but that's what I was really saying. I had absolute old soul cognition of that. Okay, I need to be seen. I need to be perfect to have a chance to be seen. In reference to my mother. Because that came out of an experience that had everything to do with my mom. And so I wanted to give her a gift when she had my baby sister, who's now deceased. And when she didn't say anything or not even a thank you, it triggered in my mind trauma. Oh no. And then my brain memorized that. It memorized the self-defense coping mechanism more. Be perfect, and then you'll be seen. That's the only thing I could come up with, which is really weird at 6. But that was my coping mechanism. Underneath it, I was really saying, oh no, my mommy can't see me, and my mommy doesn't love me. And now I'll never have a chance because now there's yet another baby. That's what I was really saying. The very thing I said with the whole hair example. Same exact thing, isn't it? Dan, can you see that?
Yeah.
Wow. So now we have to cope. Addiction is addiction is addiction, and every human being on the planet has some addiction to a certain degree or another. That's what I believe, and I see it over and over again. But yada yada. All I know is I can only talk for myself at this moment, is I have clearly been addicted to perfectionism and overachievement to prove my worth, to prove I matter, to prove I'm visible. Okay, so now, if I believe I'm invisible and that I overachieve and I am perfect, which doesn't even exist. See, there's the delusion. There's no such thing as perfection. It's subjective. It's a subjective adjective. And so I'm unconsciously trying to achieve something that doesn't even exist. How crazy and insane is that?
Completely.
Yeah.
Wackadoodle.
Yeah, wackadoodle. Hey, that's my word. Thank you for using it. A wackadoodle, wackadoodle, wackadoodle. That is like absurd and not logical or rational. And so here I am again, still in my life, decades later, going, oh my God, I'm a loser because I'm not doing enough for sex trafficking, to stop it, to raise awareness, to talk about it. It doesn't matter it's sex trafficking. Could be dog rescue, horse rescue. It could be, clean up the streets from trash. The Stop Littering campaign. All these are valid. But I'm looking yet for another accomplishment and achievement to prove my worth. And then when it doesn't work out, I'm triggered right back to, oh my God, I'm invisible, I'm unworthy, I'm a loser, I'm a failure, I'm not perfect. Underneath that is, if I'm not perfect and I'm not seen, then I have no lovability, likability. It really comes down to, I don't matter. My existence is not valid. I don't count. I'm worthless. And then that's just complete domino effect, I call it, to why bother living if I feel so crappy? Not just crappy, I feel so resigned and I feel so pessimistic and cynical. I don't see a way out. So this is self-hatred, self-loathing, self-torture, self-punishment, self-sabotage. And I see every time I go for the next big accomplishment, I have to go through this whole cycle over and over again. And then talk myself off the cliff, off the building ledge. So recently I'm on the committee for a big charity gala benefiting 9 charities, startup charities. And it was a big job. I joined at the last minute and the committee, and it was about raising money, getting sponsorship. And only in retrospect can I see, wow, there's something missing. Because I joined at the last minute, there was a lot of communication breakdowns, and just there wasn't enough information for me. And I felt like at some level I failed. I didn't do a good enough job. And that just triggered me into a downward spiral. Because I'm so addicted to making a huge difference in this world before I'm dead, to prove I'm worthy. And that's really the problem. Is I'm still having to deal with this addiction. And then I can't even give myself an out. I can't even say, Karen, great job, take some time off, do nothing. And be okay with that. For me to do nothing and not accomplish anything, you might as well shoot me. And so now I'm like, oh no. I am nothing, I've got nothing, and I don't want to do anything, which is the cycle of self-sabotage, and now I want to be an underachiever to prove that I'm a loser and I have failed up until this point in my life and will eternally fail until death. Now that's freaking depressing, isn't it, Dan?
Yeah, certainly. Certainly is.
Mm-hmm.
You got both sides of the spectrum covered.
Exactly.
Either way you go, you are going to be invalidated and see no light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah. Now, let me explain something. That's why I have to talk about it even for myself and to you in your brilliant listening and patience and letting me do one run-on sentence after another. Is in my speaking, after all my training, I can hear myself, which is most human beings, whether they admit it or not, especially overachievers and perfectionists. You know, I can hear, oh my gosh. So then I know the subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between what is imagined versus what is real. Now, I also know underneath that, based on basic brain science, that when the brain is triggered into fear, and it doesn't show up as blatant fear unless we're in danger or being murdered or, like it's an obvious situation of survival versus not surviving. The brain idles at this insidious, it's unconscious fear. That's what I call it, invisible fear. And then our self-defense coping mechanisms kick in to mask that fear, which will show up as, guess what? Distraction, procrastination, anxiety, insomnia. And then we especially for overachievers, then we do more to-do lists, more do. I got to do. I got to achieve. And really what we're doing is we're masking, this is the addiction, we're masking pain. Subconsciously and unconsciously, we're masking pain, but consciously we're trying to feel good, trying to feel better. Okay, talk about complete and utter nonsense and crazy insaneness in our minds. Logically, It makes no sense at all. And so once we're idling at fear, the brain actually we lose our capacity to be rational and logical. That fear, even very tiny, insidious, subliminal fear, will cancel out our ability to be rational and logical, which is what creates blind spotting or blind spots. In other words, things we can't see, like I'm going, oh my God, I'm a loser. I didn't raise enough money for 9 charities, right? But my favorite, not going to lie, is the child sex trafficking organization, okay? And therefore, I'm a loser. And I'm really in fear. I'm really in fear of having failed myself and everyone and everything else in life, and that I'm dead. That is my fear. And in that fear, I create massive, massive blind spots. I lose all rationale and logic and sensibilities to see that I still show up and volunteer my time to teach recovering drug addict women how to dance, mostly hip hop, my favorite. And I just went to class, and one of the girls is like, I was a prostitute. And I looked at her, I'm like, all right, good for you. Didn't judge her. Didn't make her wrong for it. She danced. She doesn't normally dance. She got up there and danced. And I missed the whole thing. I still think I'm a freaking loser and failure. And these girls are showing up, are teaching other girls to dance, are teaching me their steps that they create. And I miss it. I don't even count it as anything. Is that insane or what?
Yeah, it's giant blind spot.
It's so ridiculous that I miss all the animals I've rescued. Right? I miss all the good stuff because I don't have any reference points for it. I only have hardwiring for I'm a loser, I'm a failure, blah, 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 blah. But by understanding how the fear cancels out my ability to see all this, I go, oh, all right, I'm just in my little cycle. I'm a little cray-cray, and I need to talk it out, and I need to help. I need to take my brilliant conscious mind and use everything that I've been training for to help my subconscious and unconscious mind distinguish what I am imagining or interpreting or perceiving as negative about myself and weigh it against objective reality. Help my brain in action, my mind, decipher, distinguish what is real or objective in my objective reality versus what I perceive in my imagination, which is I'm invisible. Okay, if I were invisible, then I couldn't see myself in the mirror. Then I'd be a vampire. Get it? Vampires can't see themselves in the mirror, right? I don't know. But then I would be that. And so when I can see all this and make sense of it, I can, the fear subsides and starts to dissipate, and then eventually disappears, and my brain can go back to its healthy ways without that fear present. I can now regain my logic and rationale, which is the whole concept of blacking out. You know, this is when it goes both ways. People black out and they don't remember bad things. But also, this is that phenomenon that happens when a mother, God, I just saw a videotape of a 13-year-old girl being abducted in a Walmart or a store. No, it was like a 99-cent store. Right? And the mother runs after the perpetrator, grabs her daughter, of course, fights him, and there's going to be a blackout. Like a lot of times people go, oh, I don't remember what happened. All I know is I saw somebody taking my daughter and I fought like a banshee, and they'll black out. Like they won't remember the details because they're in survival mode. I'm protecting my child, and they won't remember details. That's the same phenomenon that happens. And they have to black out because if they go to drama and fear, fight, flight, or freeze, if she froze, that guy would have possibly gotten away with abducting her daughter. So, you know, to understand this, that's all, the point is, by me understanding it and making sense, that's how my brain works. I'm very analytical, and I need to understand why I think the things that I think and don't think the things that I think, and why my logic doesn't match up with my disempowering imagination. Then I have power. And I can rewire, I can reframe, and I can see the good that I constantly have right in front of me every single day that I miss over and over again, which is insane. And if I keep doing this, it will create massive mental illness and disease, dis-ease, which shows up as senility, dementia, Alzheimer's. It can go on and on and on if I think it's real. If I think all the bad stuff's real. It's not real. It's just my imagination at play based on my childhood and the disempowering associations I made as a child and had nobody to tell me otherwise or help me or educate me. But better late than never. And so here I go and go through yet another point in my life where I'm feeling like, it wasn't enough. It wasn't good enough. I had to take some downtime. It happens every single time in every achievement I go for. And then part of that, I can let it stop me and not go for the next achievement. And I can feed into either self-sabotage or self-love. And of course, it's obvious which one I would choose. But when I'm in a cycle of self-sabotage, I don't want to do anything. I don't want to create anything. I'm tired of posting on social media to empower other people. I'm doing nothing. It just feeds into, I am nothing, I'm a failure. And I have to catch myself. Now, the weird thing is, I have every right to do nothing, especially with all that I do, all that I've, my volunteer work. I have every right to take a day off, not even a day off. I have every right to take a whole year off, quite frankly. If I were my own coach, that's what I'd say. I'd say, you know what? The best thing you can do is take a year off. Do nothing. Travel, buy horses, sell horses, ride horses, do anything that makes you happy. Have fun. Go ziplining in Costa Rica. You love Costa Rica. Head over to Spain, see, the Andalusian horses. Do everything you want to do. That would freak me out, right? That would absolutely freak me out because I have no reference points for any of it. So now the breakthrough, what's so interesting is understanding all this and working through it over and over. Even though I'm not podcasting about it, I'm doing the work behind the scenes. I had to allow myself yesterday for the first time in my entire life to consciously do nothing on a beautiful day and rest. And I started to make myself very wrong for that. I started to be completely judgmental and critical. And then once I understood what I was doing with a quick conversation with you, Dan, thank you very much, by the way, again, I realized that I've never consciously just allowed myself to rest and do nothing for no reason and be okay with it. And not go to, oh my God, I'm a loser for not doing anything, not achieving anything, not accomplishing anything, not helping anyone. And if how good can I help? How powerful can I be helping somebody else when I can't even help myself to take a day off and rest? Right? So there's another long run-on sentence, Dan. But thank you for allowing me to articulate how my mind works, how the human brain works and doesn't work, and how we mess ourselves up over and over again in our own minds, right? So that said, Dan, are you still there? Just kidding.
No, absolutely.
Yeah. Comments, observations. What are you hearing for yourself? Wanting to add to it?
When, we chatted briefly yesterday, and we concluded that with you saying that, you might call me later in the day, depending on how it went for you, so paraphrasing it.
Yeah.
And then you didn't call.
Yep.
And I said, hey, this is really good for Karen.
Yeah.
Because I knew when you didn't call the second time that you had stayed in a space of clarity that you had created in our conversation, or you had it work out for you in one way or the other. So I was really happy about the fact that you didn't call. And it's not because I don't want to talk to you, of course, but because I realized, hey, this is a good sign.
Yeah.
And so everything that you're saying now is so good, because I really love the breakthrough you're having. You had and you're having about being able to take time off without then coming around with your deeply embedded emotional baggage programming about having to perform and be perfect and justify everything, and continue to do that uber accomplishment mandate that your brain has.
Well, it's the only way to break up the addiction cycle.
Yes.
Right?
Right.
Is
There has to be a counter to it, a conscious counterweight or counter to the cycle. And I was I'm really happy to witness this, because this is awesome. I mean, to take the day off without actually going ahead and making plans to do certain things, and not make yourself wrong in any lasting way all day. I believe this is the first time since I've known you that you have done that.
Yeah, it is. I think it's the first time I've ever done that in my entire life. Normally I have to justify.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's huge. Normally I justify. Oh, it's raining. Oh, I worked today, so, oh, I got to research something. Oh, and I'll lay in bed and watch all these, I'll profile all these, like, really weird psychological things. Not weird, but because I'm obsessed with the human psyche. And then I'll like justify, oh, no. And you know what's interesting? Now that resistance is so exhausting. I was resisting just allowing myself to take a day off consciously and do nothing when there's so much to do on a working horse ranch.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm like, ugh. And resisting just allowing myself to be. And sure enough, I actually did research a lot of interesting things laying there in bed yesterday with my 2 little doggies. And I woke up today refreshed. How can that be? Because I watched all these creepy things. I say creepy, but like these Dr. Phil clips, and because I wanted to understand all of the psychological dynamics behind criminal minds, and right, to help my efforts in the sex trafficking predator, whole situation, which is all great stuff. But then I didn't get all wigged out. I didn't get like, I gotta do something. I gotta prove something. I gotta fix this. Oh, the world's going to heck in a handbasket. I didn't go down that line. And sure enough, I wake up feeling energetic and feeling good. It's almost hard to say. I feel good. What exhausts me is my own resistance, my own judgment of self, my own self-criticism, my own, oh, you are so bad and wrong if you aren't doing something to prove your worth. Well, no wonder I'm exhausted all the time. So very interesting. And right now, I see this is the blind spots that I miss. I'm looking out way across my pasture and I see my donkey through my window doors in my kitchen area or the dining area. And there he is all the way up against the fence in the sunlight. And that is a donkey I rescued from the slaughterhouse. He was on his way to slaughter. Then a neighbor took him out, and the neighbor had not enough land, and then I took him. I've had him ever since. And I miss out on all of the amazing things that I've done. And I can be proud of myself for, even if nobody's proud of me. It doesn't matter what people think. The only thing that matters is what I think and believe. And I can't even, right now, I think, wow, I miss that every single day in my desperate fury to prove myself through accomplishments, perfectionism, and overachievements. And meanwhile, the most precious things in life are literally, figuratively, physically in my 3D, in my third dimension here, right in front of me. How dumb is that? And then I have 3 little dogs that I adopted that are so beautiful and so sweet, like over and over again, like literally right in my face. And I just think, I miss it. Okay, if that's not the stupidest thing on the planet, I don't know what is. And that's what it costs me to do this over and over again. And then to speak it out loud, to consciously understand what's happening, to let go of self-criticism and self-judgment and go, oopsie, there I go again. Whoopsie, still training. Whoopsie. Okay, this all makes sense to me. I can get myself back on track, feel empowered from within, and enjoy my life. And that's how we do this over and over and over again. Nothing makes me happier, more fulfilled, gives me the most meaning, is to be so crystal clear and my ability to see in front of me, in my objective reality, taste, touch, smell, hear, feel all of the things I have accomplished that don't define me and my self-worth, but are just physical manifestations of my desires. None of it defines me. Nothing defines me. My perceptions are really what define me. The things I choose to imagine define me. And that's how I gain power and feel a sense of connectedness, a sense of cohesiveness, a sense of connection. Everything makes sense. The dots connect into a beautiful picture. And when I have those perceptions and understand, because it all resonates with me, I now feel a sense of fulfillment and happiness and joy. And that is my beingness. That's the thing that really helped me, was understanding it's not what I'm doing or what I have. It's not what I have or what I'm doing. It's not whether I'm perfect or not perfect or achieving or not achieving. It comes down to, who am I being? How am I feeling in this moment? And am I using any addictions to prove my worth? Am I trying to mask pain to try to falsely feel good? All of that, in a nutshell, has me go, oh, I never have to do anything. I never have to achieve anything to prove that I'm worthy. But it's all subjective. It's all subjective. Also, I don't want to feed into being a martyr or a victim. So it's very tricky. So many pieces of the puzzle create this ability to have sound mind, body, spirit, soul. And I can only say that it is the only thing that has really made the huge difference that has worked for me. To have me have calm nerves, heal my body from disease, fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue syndrome after my sister died, and celiac. I'm massively allergic to gluten. And I could never give up gluten until it was too late, or my body gave out. And it was only through the power of my mind and perceptions that I was able to heal myself, to be able to dance again and teach dance. And so there it is. Ta-da! It's a work in progress. It's a practice. It's more memorization, more hardwiring, more reprogramming, but so far so terrific. So Dan, another long sentence. Woo, 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 woo. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, yappity yap, yap, yap. You know, it's interesting, Dan, you're so awesome because your ability to listen, and you know how intuitive I am and telepathic I am and clairsentient, clairvoyant, and I can feel whether people are really listening or not, or engaged or not. And you are one of the best, I think you are the best listener on the planet I've ever had the privilege to meet.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's so nice. That's so nice of you to say. Thank you.
Yeah, and it's a gift. It's really, truly a gift.
Yeah, you know, I recognize that.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful for it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also something that has been consciously developed by me. It's a gift that I've recognized and also developed, mostly or maybe entirely after this. I think when this whole journey of self-awareness and transformation started, where you and I met, or shortly before where you and I met, is where I recognized that this was a gift and had an intentional awakening of the desire to cultivate it.
Mm-hmm.
So I really appreciate the recognition. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's something that every human being, me first and foremost, must train for, is the art of listening. There's the art of communication. But this listening thing is huge. Not hearing, but really listening and resonating and relating is the most powerful gift of all. And it gives way to so much miraculous magic that oh my God, that's just a whole nother podcast and a series of podcasts. But for that, Dan, I want to thank you for listening. And I noticed that I have you on my podcast because of your gift of listening, but also at some level, well, this whole consciousness thing really has the most strength and power when we do communicate with another human. You know, so especially my clients are like, when can I do this by myself and without you? Okay, never. Sorry. Because the brain is so wicked to work against us with the fear mechanism. And so I can't do this for myself. We must interact with other humans to really develop more consciousness and evolve ourselves from within. And that's why I have you on my podcast often, is because of your gift. And there's something magical that happens when we're speaking to someone else, and it's a win-win for both parties if they're aligned in their consciousness and their commitment to evolving.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. Because
even those folks who have not discovered or begun a self-awareness journey themselves, when they encounter someone who has skill in listening and has developed that skill, that gift, they feel heard at a level they're not used to.
Yeah, really good point.
It's also a case of those folks who haven't discovered that there's a self-awareness transformational world out there that they're really not aware of. They're still capable of feeling the positive effects of being heard.
Absolutely.
Which I find to be over and over gratifying at times.
Yeah. There is this need to be related to be heard, understood. And that's a really great point. And we're about to complete this podcast right here, but it's that ability. I noticed that I can do this alone. I did record a podcast that I'll drop soon, and it was just me talking, and we can just talk, but it's so much nicer to have people that we feel aligned to. For me especially, I'm going to speak for myself, is if I have this sense of alignment in consciousness, it's so much more gratifying and powerful and effective, and it helps more people. That's the whole thing. The power of self-evolution doesn't really matter if anyone listens to the podcast, because I evolve through my own words of wisdom after all these years of training. However, I know that people do listen, and that there's something here for those who are listening. And I guess the bottom line is, this is really about human to human contact, human to human relatability, and why it's so imperative that we understand ourselves as humans. And then the more we do, the more connected we feel to other humans. So, and then there's an overall, who we're being in one area of life is who we're being in all areas of life. That means we feel this deep, profound connection to everyone and everything. And then that creates this sense of joy, love, and this sense of goodness and affinity. And that's my purpose and mission, is to do that for myself and share that with those who relate to it. So that said, Dan, you're phenomenal. And thank you for being here with me this morning, impromptu. If there's anyone out there who'd like to know more about my Elite Empowerment Coaching services, you can email me at KarenLoveLee@gmail.com. Contact me through any of my social media outlets. Let me know your thoughts, any questions, anything that you'd like for me to address. I'd love to hear from you, or not. That's fine too. I thank you all for listening. And here's to really understanding yourself and hearing yourself and being visible and mattering to yourself. And I wish that for each and every human being on the planet, because I do believe it makes a difference. And until next time, may all your dreams become real, and that you feel a connected, happy, fulfilling wonderfulness to your reality in that order. Is concentrate on understanding yourself, feeling happy and connected from within, and that's when all the magic happens. You send out a very high frequency and vibration based on the law of attraction, and more magic happens effortlessly, easily. And that's a spectacular, extraordinary, magnificent life. And I wish that for each and every human being on the planet. Thank you all so much, and I love you.